I don't want to talk about those things. I see the worst in people, Henry. I don't need to look past seeing them to get all I need. Built up my hatreds over the years, little by little.
Most people are content with a life in which developing relationships with others and the world is a priority. But although this might be the rule, there are always exceptions, including those who go the opposite direction and look to bend the world to their will. What happens when someone is so intent on not conforming to the world that they instead go to any length necessary to force the world to conform to themselves? This is a situation that the character Daniel Plainview finds himself within in the film There Will Be Blood. A man in a pit hammering at the earth, using sharp tools and heavy objects in order to dig through the crust and annihilate anything that is in his way. The man is all by himself, alone in this hole and alone in the world, spitting saliva to discover possible riches, looking past the natural splendor that surrounds. The earth is viewed as something to be exploited and mined, something to be pushed out of the way as it does not pertain to his goal. Soon he is injured by a planned blast, and he seems to be in bad shape, having the life sucked out of him. Not long after, though, he is cashing in the gold and silver, and despite laying on the ground in pain, his pain is now justified. He has obtained what he was searching for. Monetary gains trump everything else in his life. His name is Daniel Plainview, indicating a person with a limited or one-sided viewpoint on living. The way he perceives things is simple and not deep. It has not been considered or contemplated in any profound way. He is someone who is restricted from obtaining a more complex grasp on existence. An apparatus is soon created to help with the process of mining, in which a large metal rod is lifted up and plunged into the earth. They are literally attacking the earth in order to extract it of its resources. Damaging the ground below is a primary tactic, so that the bubbling crude can be released. Soon more holes are dug so as to make room for the oil. The pristine land with so much natural beauty is being transformed before our eyes. The young baby is crying nearby, and his biological father places a smudge of oil on his forehead, making us aware of the stark contrasts between the innocence of the newborn child's delicate skin and the harsh, grimy, and smothering aspects of the lucrative oil. Daniel is soon forced to take over responsibilities of the child, and we see how out of touch he is with other humans. He attempts to give the baby a bottle, the nipple coated with whiskey, staring blankly at the baby while he is crying. For a moment, we see them on the train together, staring into each other's eyes and showing a possible connection. But years later, when HW has grown, we get the idea that on that train ride, Daniel was already planning how he was going to use and exploit this child for his own selfish motives. HW has become a sort of prop or tool, something which helps expand and improve the oil business without consideration for the human behind the boy. The camera closes in on HW's face as Daniel speaks to potential customers, and we see someone confused and scared, one who has no idea what is happening or where the true motivations of his father may lay.
I'm a family man. I run a family business. This is my son and my partner, H.W. Plainview. We offer you the bond of family that very few oilmen can understand.
He is a modern businessman in all senses of the phrase. He hides behind a slogan or idea of what he and his business represent, when in fact these sayings serve as ways to make the customer feel a particular way about the business. He is well versed in ways to manipulate potential sellers and push them towards shoveling out money or land. His business consists of drilling for oil, but also drilling into people and towns, extracting whatever wealth they may possess. As a pioneer of the oil business, he learned early on how to drill and where the pitfalls may lay. But instead of using this information for the overall good, he instead restricts the use of his knowledge for personal gain, while hurting others in the process. At one point, he walks away from a town with a leaking oil reserve. declining to provide any advice that would assist. He works strategically to hurt others and makes a point to leave them in the dark if they don't have something he needs. The bottom line for Daniel is that you have something he wants, and he will do whatever it takes to get it.
Now, this work that we do is very much a family enterprise. I work side by side with my wonderful son, H.W. I think one or two of you might have met him already. I encourage my men to bring their families as well. Of course, it makes for an ever so much more rewarding life for them. Family means children, and children means education.
And although he promises the world to these people, during the intersecting shots of the meeting, we are shown the reality of the situation. He says his workers are family men, but each man who comes off the train is single and just looking to make a buck. He says they value education and the community, but the tents outside are ones that have been set up in other communities prior to this. It's likely these workers do this all year long, hopping from town to town, train to train, waiting for the next job in which oil is being stolen from the people who live above it. Daniel promises a well-polished future to the town folk, something they have been hoping for and dreaming for much of their lives. But he is in fact selling a dream that has no chance to come true. He understands how gullible and manipulatable people are, how easy it is to take advantage of weaknesses in others. He has seen weakness in himself and people he was once close to, and he can't stand the sight of that human error. So he focuses on the weaknesses of others as a means to exploit it. When HW is blown off the oil rig, Daniel gets his son out of harm's way, but soon leaves his side to help put out the fire. Is it safe to assume that Daniel is more concerned with his operation than with his injured child?
What are you looking so miserable about? There's a whole ocean of oil under our feet. No one can get at it except for me.
And with this line, our question is answered, as Daniel is primarily focused on what this means for his future growth. One of his partners soon goes to check on HW, like any good father would, while Daniel remains fixated on the burning structure until the next morning. He seems to be so engrossed and transfixed on the oil, as well as the prospects of his upcoming earnings, that he completely forgets about his son's injury. Soon comes further disconnection from HW, as his son no longer serves the purpose he once did. HW cannot be the attentive listener he has always been. He can no longer be showboated around to promote and sell the company. Daniel is seen attempting to make HW go to sleep before sunset, displaying a man who does not want to try and work his way through this difficult situation. He is only interested in HW changing, since any attempt by Daniel to change for others would be preposterous. He is unwilling to adjust himself for anything or anyone, even the one person he is closest to in the world. So he sends HW away on a train. Daniel will not conform to the world, so instead it must conform to him.
There are times when I look at people and I see nothing worth liking. I want to earn enough money I can get away from everyone.
In vulnerable moments, he mentions that he doesn't like to explain himself to others and that he just doesn't like people in general. People are no good to him because they involve feeling, caring, and helping, things that Daniel cannot be bothered by. Emotions don't suit his life, only calculated and logical moves do. He is like a hurt little boy who has not overcome early wounds, and so he has distanced himself from others as much as possible. But at the same time, he has begun drinking alcohol more often, something that will progress throughout the film. Alcohol becomes his way to hide from feelings that he isn't willing to address, enabling him to maintain the facade of a happily independent man. Booze provides a way for his feelings to remain suppressed, as opposed to letting them come up and make him care for the well-being of others.
Say it louder. I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my child! I've abandoned my boy!
But for Daniel to keep getting what he wants, he needs to go to the church and receive salvation. This is one of the few times in the film in which he is needing to conform to others and their wishes, as he knows he has no other option available. He is forced to do what he absolutely does not want, which is to admit to abandoning his child. The only way for him to continue bending the world is for him to bend over to Eli and the church. We see the agony in Daniel's face as admitting to the truth is rare for him, as bottled up emotions come to the surface. Daniel is being placed in a position he cannot stand, in which others have power over him, where he is at the mercy of the world around. At a future date, Daniel has become an alcoholic and a recluse. He has made every attempt to ensure the fate he spoke about earlier in the film, gathering enough wealth so as to not need to deal with anyone. He signs checks for his business, and he has waiters and maids to take care of his needs. He again sees HW as an adult, but Daniel can only see him as a competitor when HW mentions wanting to start his own business. His son has become another person that will not do as Daniel says, that will not conform to his wishes. So this becomes the perfect time to inform HW that he is an orphan. By telling this to HW, he not only attempts to permanently end their relationship, but he also does his best to humiliate his son. He wants to provide no reason for future communication. HW soon walks away, and Daniel yells, "You're a bastard from a basket." But the irony runs deep here, as Daniel is so bent on the world conforming to him, of recognizing his power, that he continues to yell disgraces at his deaf son, who is facing the opposite way and walking away forever. Even though his words have no chance to make an impact, he continues his rant in futility.
I drink your milkshake. I drink it up!
Then, in the final scene, Eli has returned to Daniel, lost in life and looking for money. Daniel is needing to ensure that the world never has one up on him, meaning that he must enact revenge for the baptism performed by Eli. He soon manipulates a desperate Eli into renouncing his faith and admitting that God is a superstition. This is reminiscent of the way a younger Daniel would extract resources from groups of people who were already poor and desperate before he met them. He is always looking to suck out whatever he can from the world around, be it land, money, dignity, beliefs, or confidence. Daniel informs Eli that he has drained all the oil that Eli thought he could tap into himself, thereby obliterating Eli's hopes for a new life. But in the end, Daniel is the one whose reserves are depleted, as he knows he has nothing else to live for due to pushing everyone and everything out of his life. He soon murders Eli and admits to his end, one final act of forcing the world to his own self-destructive desires. This concludes this episode on the psychology of There Will Be Blood. Please watch my other videos on other TV and film characters if you enjoyed this video. Thank you for watching.